Thank you very much, Bilal. And let's continue with a welcome address. I now have the honor of introducing His Excellency Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Secretary of Department of Telecommunications, Government of India. Over to you.
Good morning, dear friends. My dear colleague, Bilal, other colleagues from the ITU, speakers, officials from DOT. We heard in great detail about the role of ITU, which it has been playing in a rapidly emerging technology. Every day we find new boundaries stretched beyond our imagination. Only yesterday I read that Samsung unveiled a 7 million parameter model which is equivalent to a 10 billion parameter model using a different approach, something called TRM. Standards, regulation, collaboration, skill, capacity building, all these take time. The technology is not waiting for these to evolve. And that's why the role of ITU as an organization, as a convening entity across all the nations is so critical. I thank the leadership of Doreen to do that. While the title of this summit is AI for good, there is equally AI for bad. And these are the risks which come along in actual implementations, in verticals, because AI is really a horizontal. And when we talk of the verticals, I look after telecom in Government of India, and we are able to see how artificial intelligence aided tools are leading to deepfakes, they are leading to cloning of voice, leading to financial fraud, bypassing voice signatures, bypassing even videos to establish identities. And therefore, we have to be very vigilant about what the telecom network will look like with artificial intelligence. As we move from 5G to 6G, there is a tremendous role for AI to improve the intelligence in the networks, make them self-healing, move from generative AI to agentic AI, where both in the front end, deep in the network, and in the middle part of the network, there will be a lot of functions which AI will replace, make the customer service better. We are looking forward to keep up pace with the fast evolving technological landscape and come up with an organized response as a country along with ITU to see how AI and telecom developments can be harmonized for good. We feel that the AI for good, as Bilal pointed out, the foundational pillars of innovation, skills capacity building, governance and standards should lead to trusted, impactful and accessible solutions for everybody. India is advancing the AI for good vision to a $1.25 billion India AI mission by investing in research, startups, skilling to advance the goals of a secure and inclusive AI ecosystem. India continues to shape the AI fairness and governance agenda through leadership at the WTSA 24 and contributions to the ITU's AI standardization framework. The AI for Good track is more than a conference. It represents a shared global commitment to ensure AI uplifts communities, empowers nations, and preserves human dignity. India's leadership in responsible and secure AI is driven by the belief and the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister that technology must be a force for inclusion, trust, and progress. Our collaboration with ITU stands as a testament to our shared resolve to use AI responsibly, inclusively, and for the greater good of all. I wish this conference a very bright day ahead and look forward for recommendations and feedback as to how nations can make their AI strategy better, inclusive, trusted, and above all, make it AI for good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And before you leave the stage, just a quick group picture with yourself and Bilal. And ladies and gentlemen, what a great way to kick off our event. Thank you very much, both. And now, please allow me to introduce you to an exceptional panel of experts who will be talking about AI governance and how to bridge policy and practice. And I would like to invite my panelists to stage. We are just waiting for the stage to be ready. So I would like to invite back Bilal Jamousi, Deputy Director of TSB ITU, Fadwa Saad Al-Bawardi, founder and CEO, Fadwa Al-Bawardi Consulting Office, who is coming from Saudi Arabia. Mohit Kumar Agarwal, Director of AI and DIU, Department of Telecommunications, Ministry of Communications of India. And Eun Song Kim, Chief Program Specialist of the Social and Human Science Sector at UNESCO South Asia Regional Office based in Delhi. We are almost ready, and oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, I had to practice all languages just by pronouncing the names. I hope I was successful. I think we are almost ready with the setup of the stage. So get ready for an exciting but very serious conversation about AI governance and policy and how we can actually move those principles into implementation and apply tools to drive that forward. And as Bilal mentioned earlier, the UN General Assembly just adopted the AI resolution on AI, and we are looking forward to hosting the AI governance dialogue in Geneva back-to-back with the AI for Good Global Summit in July. So I think we are good to go. So I would like to invite all the panelists. I won't pronounce your names again. Please come on stage. Welcome music, please. Big applause, everyone. Nice to meet you. Alrighty. All right, dear colleagues, it's a really pleasure to have you today with us, such a diverse panel of experts. So I would ask you a couple of questions. The first question would be the one to all of you. So we've seen remarkable progress globally in shaping AI governance, right? From adoption of AI Act to India's growing emphasis on responsible AI. From your perspective, what recent developments or emerging trends do you see as most promising for aligning international approaches while respecting national priorities? And I would like to start with Bilal, yourself, to share your international vision.
Thank you very much, Ksenia, and hello again. I think Dr. Mittal mentioned one of the challenges with AI when he talked about AI for bad. And that was the same challenge of deep fakes, misinformation, disinformation, that came as one of the top issues, hurting trust or threatening trust in our system. From the World Economic Forum 2025 report, it was the fourth top risk. It was also the biggest risk that we heard at our AI governance dialogue in 2024 at the AI for Good Summit. And it showed that particular topic of misinformation and deepfakes showed how it was necessary to have a dual action, an action on governance and standards going hand in hand. It was clear from the dialogue that the policymakers are not necessarily aware of the existing technologies, the existing standards that can be used to combat deepfakes. The standards makers were busy working on their particular topic of interest. The JPEG standards group was working on JPEG trust to make sure that images that are tampered with could be protected, or there can be some multimedia authenticity. The group working on video coding was working on watermarks for videos. The group working on audio speech recognition was trying to work on multimedia authenticity for voice. So there was fragmented approach in the standards development landscape in 2024. And as a result, during the AI for Good Summit in 24, we launched a collaboration on multimedia authenticity with ISO, IEC, and ITU, with IEEE, the Internet Engineering Task Force. So we brought all of these players together, and we worked on two documents that were needed to govern and deal with misinformation. The first one was a report on all the standards work on multimedia authenticity, including techniques like watermarking, using AI to detect deepfakes. These standards were being developed in ISO, IEC, ITU, IEEE, as I mentioned. So we published the first report to show the landscape of standards. And the second report was a policy guidance to policymakers on how to use those tools and standards to combat deepfakes. Going after websites that are not authentic and taking them down. Ensuring that video has a multimedia watermark. Using the JPEG trust to ensure that images that have been tampered with can be easily detected. So I wanted to use this concrete example to show the interplay on how AI can be governed using international standards.
Thank you, Bilal. Thank you so much. And we have also UNESCO with us, and of course we know UNESCO have been co-chairing with ITU the Interagency Working Group on AI. So, Eun-Song, from your perspective, what are the emerging trends that could support the AI governance?
Thank you, Ksenia, and thank you, Bilal, for inviting UNESCO to this panel. I think just like ITU, UNESCO, and UN, we're global organizations that set standards, or in our case, we build normative frameworks. And in AI, UNESCO led the discussion on what it means to have ethical AI. What do we need? What do we need to consider? What are the consensus that has to be in place? So in 2021, we developed the recommendation, the global recommendation on the ethics of AI. It was built on consensus by all our 193 member states, and it outlines the high-level values and principles of what ethical AI means, why we need ethical AI, and how to do it. The principles outlines those mechanisms. What we did to go a step ahead is because we don't want these global standards or normative frameworks to just sit on the shelf. We want member states and governments to take them up and implement them in their own policies and programs in their own countries. So we did a couple of things. First of all, the recommendation itself has very specific policy areas that it is pegged to. So we have 11 policy areas ranging from data to AI policy to gender equality, which was very specific, to environmental impact, which I think in 2021 was a very, very new discussion. And we're very proud to have led that kind of consciousness and awareness. Now that you see in the AI Action Summit in France, there's a whole new program on the environmental impacts of AI. So that's one thing we did to make sure that the global standards align with the national policies. Secondly, we have something called the AI Readiness Assessment Methodology. At UNESCO, we call it the RAM, We're doing the RAM right now with about 70 countries around the world, majority global south countries. And what it is basically, it's a series of questions that collect quantitative and qualitative data in each country to give an overall diagnosis of where the country stands in terms of ethical AI. And we recommend that countries do this, we support countries do this in the beginning of their AI policy journey, because we don't want strategies and policies to come out from nowhere. We want it to be pegged and based on evidence and data collected from that country itself. So that's something that we're doing very specifically to support the alignment of global frameworks and national policies. And in South Asia, the region I lead, we're doing the RAM with the Indian government, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, with Bangladesh, Maldives, and we're in progressive discussions to also do it in Sri Lanka. So that's something that I see is a great progression for AI ethics, where the UN is supporting nations in aligning global standards to national frameworks.
Thank you very much, Young Song. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen some great example of international frameworks that are already in place. So, Fadwa, from your perspective, how are those frameworks are potentially being implemented in your region? If you could share your experience.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today with you, and thank you very much for inviting me. I come from the private sector in Saudi Arabia, so I'm going to talk from that perspective. I believe that AI governance needs to be proactive rather than reactive. It means shaping policies before issues occur. So when we think about having a long-term vision, this vision is essentially needed in order for us to make sure that we are having sustainability in place, as well as we are making sure that we are having collective good over short-term gains. This is very important from the private sector perspective. So when we think about bridging policies with practice, the global cooperation is very important, because with that we can set standards and we can avoid regulatory fragmentation. Also from the private sector perspective, I think it's very important to have a certain phrase in mind. We need to have global standards while we have local action. Why? Because yes, we need international frameworks to guide us. However, it's important to have local implementation in place, because this is a key in order for us to be able to address the societal and specific societal requirements for every country. Also, we need to make sure that we have adaptive AI governance, because we as companies, we as industry, if we don't evolve with AI, as AI is rapidly evolving, we are going to really lose track. So the policies need to be flexible enough in order to balance with innovation. We have innovation. We don't want our policies to be too rigid in order to hinder this innovation. And as I agree also with my colleague panelists, it's important not just to have an adaptive AI governance, it's important also to have an inclusive governance. We as industry, we as private sector, it's important for us to make sure that everybody benefits from AI and not just you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fadwa. And now I'm moving to my colleague Mohit. Could you please share your experience in India?
In India, the government of India, particularly the Department of Telecommunication, is taking steps to put AI governance into action. For India, it is not just theory. We are putting the things into practice to bridge this gap between the theory and the practice. Department of Telecommunication has taken many initiatives. One of the initiatives is Sanchar Sathi portal, in which is a citizen-centric initiative, citizen-led initiative, in which we are crowdsourcing the data of the telecom frauds, suspicious calls, WhatsApp messages, SMSs that they receive on day-to-day basis. Then these, the calls, the data, all are analyzed in the digital intelligence platform, and then insights are developed, and we take actions on the basis of that. Now, not only that, we are also empowering citizens by by developing facility in which they can get their phones back. For example, a citizen has lost his phone, then they can report it and block it. Then we generate the traceability, and on the basis of the traceability, we return to the rightful owner. So it is a very successful project from the department. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mahit. So as you see, we have different examples from the regions. We have international frameworks, but quite often the challenge is actually to bring all partners together and to get them work together, governments, international organizations, private sector. So in your view, what are the enablers to get us to work together, but also what are the barriers that prevent us to move faster? Maybe Bilal or Fadwa, whoever would like to.
Well, I think the first principle of good governance is that all the stakeholders must be around the table. The stakeholders in this case are, of course, the governments, the policy makers, the regulators that need the tools and the laws in the country to be able to deal with the challenges of AI. The private sector that is innovating very fast needs to be around the table. The research organizations, the academia, where a lot of this advanced research is happening, need to also pave the way of what's coming. And civil society, addressing human rights, addressing human-centric AI development, avoiding the AI for bad challenges. I mean, we have seen over the course of the development of the internet that the internet is fantastic. It allows us to all communicate, but there are always cybersecurity threats. In part because some of this development did not have security by design principles, and then some patchwork had to happen afterwards. It's important in the AI framework to have this inclusive view in terms of research, advanced developments by industry, governments, and the civil society, so that we design it in a way that is protecting and advancing and really being AI for good. How can we use AI for healthcare, for agriculture, for education, for natural disaster management, while avoiding the pitfalls? So that dialogue must be inclusive. What we also found in the ITU is that almost a handful of countries have a national strategy on AI and have some sort of governance framework, but most developing countries don't have any legislation, they don't have a national strategy. Over 150 countries are really just consuming and are not part of the conversation. And that's where we have put a special emphasis at the AI for Good Summit governance dialogues to bring ministers and telecom regulators or digital regulators to the conversation so that it is inclusive and it reflects all the views of the world. And when you see the development of AI today, I mean, the data centers and the compute platforms are just in a few countries, maybe five countries that have significant AI development. Of course, the United States, China, India, and a few European countries, but the rest of the world doesn't have the compute platform, does not have the development of machine learning, doesn't have the data. Most of the focus groups we ran in the ITU since 2017, when we launched the AI for Good, we launched a number of focus groups on AI for health with WHO, AI for agriculture with the Food and Agriculture Organization, with the World Meteorological Organization on AI for natural disaster management. And those focus groups was a platform for experts from the subject matter. So in the AI for health, it was doctors and data scientists, and the same for all the other sectors. And after those meetings and development of reports and so on, it was clear that there is a significant lack of data, especially in developing countries. The data is recorded on paper, if it is recorded, and if it's recorded in digital form, it's in different formats. There is no data governance framework for sharing the data. So my colleague from UNESCO talked about the ethical guidelines and the readiness framework. It is an excellent tool to get governments to start thinking about having that enabling environment so that the data is collected, the training is done on data that is significant for the country, in the language of the country, taking the cultural specificities, the linguistic specificity, so that the output of the model is relevant for the use. So these are all elements of the governance discussion that we had in the report that was mentioned today. And I really encourage you to download that AI governance report, because it gives this 360 view on all of these topics of inclusivity, of the multi-stakeholder nature, to your question, Ksenia, and also the inclusivity in the dialogue.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bilal. Maybe over to you, Eun-Sung. Yeah, you mentioned the UNESCO ethical principles. Where do you see the challenges in adopting them actually across the regions?
I mean, specifically, challenges to adopting ethical AI principles come from the lack of awareness on a lot of people, including not only government, but the public, the audience, the civil society, on why it's important to even embed these principles. And also sometimes it leads to regulation, and a lot of governments that we work with, especially in the global south, have a tendency to think that innovation will be stifled because of regulation. And it does take some time for us and bodies like the UN to convince our counterparts that actually regulation doesn't necessarily mean stifling innovation, but it can be a very, very good ground to actually innovate even further. A colleague of mine, I think she's speaking later, Kale Kabali from Microsoft, in a panel she had shared that when Microsoft was first entering India, the condition of the Indian government was to ensure that it has local languages in Microsoft softwares. And that regulation actually led to a lot of innovation in the Indian languages being encoded and encrypted, and services being provided digitally in that language. So you see that's an excellent example of how regulation can actually lead to innovation at a local level. So UNESCO, we are trying through many approaches to convince governments. One thing that we're specifically doing right now is we're creating a global MOOC, a course on ethics of AI, really digging deep into each of the principles. What does that mean? What does it mean for policymakers through real use cases and toolkits? Not only making them understand what that is, but giving them tools to apply it in their day-to-day work. So that's something we're doing. Another thing I wanted to talk about in terms of challenges and multi-stakeholder approaches on governance, I think I completely agree with Bilal on it is extremely important. But the reality is there's a lack of platforms where everybody can come together and meaningfully engage. And I think platforms like ITU's AI for Good Forum, or even the governance bodies that you have on standard setting, where a huge group of the portion of the membership is private sector, and you bring them together with standard setting bodies at the national level, these kind of platforms where they can actually meaningfully engage is very, very rare. And I think the UN is trying to make an effort. For example, UNESCO is a privileged partner for the G20 and the G7. And in these platforms, most often, first of all, Global South is not adequately represented. And secondly, the inclusion of civil society or private sector is usually a tokenistic approach. So what we try to do through the data that we collect at the national level, through the RAMs, we try to represent them in a meaningful manner in global AI policy dialogues, such as the G20 and the G7. And recently, as you all know, the AI Impact Summit is going to be hosted in India in February. First time it's being hosted in a Global South country. I think that is an excellent opportunity for also India to take the lead, but give an opportunity to a lot of the countries that have been somewhat marginalized in these global discussions on AI governance to participate in a meaningful manner.
Thank you very much, Eun-Sung. So, Bilal and yourself, you mentioned the challenges like lack of compute, lack of data, lack of awareness. Fadwa, from your perspective, you work with developing countries, you advise them on how best to implement AI strategies. What is your experience in that? How do they actually go and try to find those resources?
Sure. I would like to mention that I totally agree with Dr. Bilal on what he has mentioned regarding the data fragmentations. First, I think it's very important to have a data strategy before we can have an AI strategy. If we don't have this data strategy in place, we will never have a successful AI strategy. And the data strategy, it involves all the components of the DAMA, including the data governance, data security, quality, and so on. So this is very important to take into consideration. Also, now to answer your question, we need to align policies with reality. AI governance needs to translate policies into actionable, practical steps that organizations can actually implement seamlessly. So we need to have monitoring for the AI systems in place. We need to really make sure that they are aligned with the regulations, that they are compliant. This is very important, even with AI ethics, as my colleagues from UNESCO have mentioned. It's important to measure the impact by having assessment standards in place in order to make sure that we are following the frameworks and the ethical frameworks. And this needs to be done from design to deployment. I'm going to give an example, share an example from my country, from Saudi Arabia. One of the projects, mega projects that I have been working in, it had to do with the COVID AI algorithms and predicting the number of cases for the infected cases in Saudi Arabia, as well as the percentage of ICU utilization rates in all the kingdom, in all regions. During this journey in that mega project, which involved many stakeholders from different entities, government, private, without the cooperation from academia, from scientists, from physicians, from civil society for surveys, from government, from private sector, the industry, this project would have never been successful. So this is a live example for how collaboration is needed from all these stakeholders in order for us to implement valid AI models and to make sure that our algorithms are successful and giving us the results that we are seeking. Thank you.
Thank you, Fadwa. So yeah, AI for Good has always emphasized values like transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability. Mohit, in your experience, while India is moving very fast with innovation and you have a huge growing market with companies like Microsoft entering the country, how do you ensure that those principles are actually respected and beneficial for citizens?
Yeah, while with AI we are targeting innovation, but we should not forget that the transparency, accountability, human centricity we should not forget these principles. So Government of India is ensuring in these principles in different domains. With respect to the telecom, we always strive that whatever approaches we are taking, it should be human-centric. For example, we have come up with the financial fraud risk indicator. So it is a collaboration of the different organs and the different organizations working to prevent the cyber fraud and the financial frauds that the developing nations, particularly India, are facing. So we have collaborated all the 700 banks, the law enforcement agencies, the state police, and the telecom service providers on a single platform, digital intelligence platform, and we share the real-time insights. And on the basis of that, we are acting before a fraud can take place. So we are taking proactive steps and using AI to help the citizens. So in the last 4 months, for example, we have stopped around 200 crore of transactions. So we have prevented and the people of becoming victim of such cyber frauds. So our approach of implementing these principles, transparency and accountability, but we do not stifle the innovation. Our main aim is human-centric. That's the goal of the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And maybe the last question to all of you, dear colleagues. AI is moving very fast, and if we are, and I hope we will meet next year here at IMC, and you would look back at yourself right now, what would be your advice to all of us? What should be the next step in moving also fast with and keep up with the AI race? Bilal?
I think the skilling is important. It's critical. and the skilling at all levels, from the policymakers, the diplomats, the negotiators, to understand the levers and the framework, the spectrum of options they have to govern and manage AI is important. The skills at the universities, at the research institutes, the skills of the user, the citizen who is using these applications, to be able to discern good from bad, to stay away from deep fakes. There are children using these applications without necessarily enough child online protection. There are aging populations who are spending massive amounts of time online because they have the time and they need to be entertained, but they're victims of these frauds and attacks. Financial transactions being attacked by AI. And we're very happy to see India as one of the leading countries to use AI to attack and deal with this fraudulent financial transaction. In fact, CDOT, the research arm of DOT, was the winner of the WSIS forum in July on using AI to protect citizens, especially people who are not necessarily literate, who may not be able to really discern all of the challenges around AI attacks and adversarial AI attacks to their solutions. So I think it's key to think of the skilling throughout the spectrum, from the end user all the way to the policymaker. And that's why in Davos this year, we launched the AI Skills Coalition with partners from the private sector, from UN agencies, to be able to provide those skills and have access to the skills to be able to get people certified. We have courses for diplomats in Geneva, bringing all the ambassadors. We have a program in New York to bring all the ambassadors and do capacity building with ministers, the same way, especially in the global south. So I think skilling and being able to discern all of the opportunities and threats of AI is going to be a critical priority for the next year. Program in New York to bring all the ambassadors and do.
What's your advice would be?
I really believe that AI is a force for good. However, we need to steer it with an ethical compass. If we don't move into the right direction, we will definitely lose focus and we will be subject to AI for bad. So we need to always keep ethics and ethical frameworks in place. I think this is very important and this would be guiding us.
Thank you very much, Fadwa. And so?
Completely agree with the first two speakers, but if I have to add something new, I would say making it a priority that we don't repeat the digital divide that we had created through another new AI divide. While AI is exponentially advancing and benefiting a lot of people in the world, there is a bigger population around the world that is being disadvantaged through the lack of access, awareness, lack of skilling opportunities, and exacerbating that gap. So that is something I think we really need to think of and make conscious decisions to bridge that gap. An interesting story that we faced at UNESCO, we were doing the readiness assessment regional consultations in India because it's such a huge country. And we went to cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, the usual. But we also went to cities like Guwahati in Assam, in the northeastern side. And there, in one of the consultations with the young people, the first question we ask is, have you ever interacted with AI? But usually people enthusiastically respond. Here in Guwahati, nobody was responding, nobody was raising their hands. We were very perplexed. That's very odd. So let's change the question. Okay, how many of you have interacted with ChatGPT? And then everybody's hands goes up. So you already see this in the, I wouldn't say lack, but different understanding of what we mean in AI technologies. And another interesting finding in one of the AI RAMs in India is that while the government of India has done exponentially in increasing the access, it is largely, in terms of data centers, in terms of skilling opportunities, it's really focused on tier 1 cities. So once you go into the tier 2, tier 3 cities, again, you see a significant gap. So just, if I had to have a priority, it would be let's not repeat and create a new AI divide.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, raise your hands. How many of you have interacted with AI? Whew, that's a relief. We are at AI for good. All right, and Mohit, what would be your takeaway and advice?
Yeah, so while using AI, we should be dependent on the country-specific, region-specific data sets. Data sets are very important while using AI, while using any of the model of the AI. So while policy making at the ground level, there should be a positive feedback loop, collecting data from the ground and not just depending on a particular data set from a different country. So that's where we can have accuracy in policy making and implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So upskilling, inclusive AI governance, bridging digital divide. So let's all work together. Thank you so much, the panelists. That was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a big applause to our panel. And before you leave the stage, I think we have a special award.